right? I don't know what other ways to. All right, how are you guys doing? Ready for one more session before lunch? Yes? Okay. So let me quickly introduce myself. My name is Ahmed Sidky. I'm the head of development management at Riot Games. I've been doing software development, starting as a programmer. I'm into the sort of management arena for the past 20 years. I finished a doctorate degree in Agile Transformation. This is back in 2005, 2006. And I wrote a book called Becoming Agile in an Imperfect World, because I think that's the world we live in. It's great very theoretically, but the reality has its own challenges. Before joining Riot, I was an enterprise transformation coach, helping large organizations adopt Agile. I did a number of transformations for Fortune 100 companies back in the US, usually 4,000 to 5,000 people as part of the transformation. And I'm currently the president of the International Consortium for Agile. So we're here to talk about sustainable agility and the secret to get there. Yes? You guys awake? Yes, right? Okay. And you guys can understand me, yes? So I want to introduce you to a friend of mine. His name is Jack. Say hi, Jack. All right. So Jack is the CIO of, we're going to call that Future Corp. Future Corp is around 10,000 people, and the IT department is around 3,000 people, and they have a goal. The goal is to transform themselves to be agile as soon as possible. Okay? Now, does this map to, or is this similar to any of your goals? To transform your organization to agile? Is that your goal? No? Some of you? Okay, great. So Jack, like any good CIO, has a plan. Here's Jack's plan. The first thing is to start training across all IT on Scrum. Okay? Second is we're going to pick someone. Her name is Stacy, and we're going to put them in charge of the Agile transformation in addition to their day job. Okay? And then we're going to run 2 pilot projects, and they're going to do very well because they're pilot projects. They always do very well, right? And then he's going to send a memo out to everyone saying, because the pilot projects went very well, all IT projects will be agile by the end of the year. And we're going to launch 5 new teams every quarter, and I'm going to have a monthly meeting with you, Stacy, to make sure that we're on plan. That's how committed I am as a CIO. And we're going to get an agile tool, so we're really agile. Does this look familiar? Is anyone in this room Stacy? No? All right, any Jacks in the room? So this is a very common plan that I've seen many organizations have on their journey to be agile. The question I want us to answer today together is, will this yield sustainable organizational agility? What do you guys think? Yes or no? This is an interactive session. Yes or no? No, okay. Obviously, because I asked it at the beginning of the session, it should be no, okay? All right, so let's align on some concepts first before we dive deep into why it's no. So the first concept is, what is Agile, right? Agile, many times, is confused as a process or a methodology, or as people call it, an umbrella methodology, right? I want to redefine Agile today as Agile is a mindset. It's a way of thinking. This mindset is defined by 4 values. These 4 values come from the Agile Manifesto. Does anyone know what they are? What are they? Individuals and interactions over processes and tools, yes? Second one, anyone? People over process, yes. Second? Working software over comprehensive documentation. Third? Customer collaboration over contract negotiation. And number 4? responding to change over following a plan. Does everyone know where these principles are coming from, these values? This is the Agile Manifesto. So they're described by the 4 values, defined by 12 principles, which also come from the Agile Manifesto. Anyone know them by heart? No, I'm just kidding. All right, so we have 12 principles, but here's the key thing. These values and principles are manifested. They show up in many, many, many different practices. Okay? Unlimited number of practices. Now, you've heard of Scrum, yes? So, Scrum or XP or your own process is a bunch of these practices bundled together. That's all it is. So, Agile is this. The mindset, the values, the principles. These are methodologies. Okay? So when we talk about an Agile transformation, that's very different than a Scrum transformation. A Scrum transformation is a transformation of process. An Agile transformation is a transformation of mindset, values, and principles. Now, are your organizations trying to do a Scrum transformation or an Agile transformation? That's something for you to think about. Okay? Here's the biggest challenge. Being Agile versus doing Agile. Many people approach the world of Agile this way. Daily stand-ups, 2-week iterations, index cards, user stories, backlogs, retrospectives. What are all these? Practices, right? These are all practices. So you're doing Scrum, you're doing stand-ups, you're doing iterations. But the question is, are you being Agile? Did the mindset and culture really change inside of the organization or not? Now, why do people approach it this way? Guess why? It's easy, right? Tell me what I need to do to be Agile. Okay, do this and this. Thank you very much, sir. I'm going to go do it, right? You don't need to think. You don't need to do anything. I have a recipe for you. And the whole point of Agile is to do what? To get people to think about the best way for them to work, right? It's exactly like telling you, by the way, I need you to be flexible, but only using this way. Does that make sense? So keep this in mind, the difference between doing Agile and being Agile. Now, here's one of the fundamental things. Who's heard in this room before that Agile is a mindset? Yeah? Okay, can you describe the mindset? It's hard. I want to show you some research by Dr. Carol Dweck. She wrote a book called Mindset. Has anyone heard of this book? If you get nothing out of this session, go and read this book. Promise me. You don't have to promise me. At least fake promise me. Okay. So Dr. Carol Dweck wrote a book called Mindset. Now, Dr. Carol Dweck is a Stanford researcher. For the past 25 years, she's been doing research on the mindset of people. Now, she's not an agilist or a technologist. She's a researcher, right? Psychological researcher. Her conclusion is this, and listen carefully. People have one of 2 mindsets, a fixed mindset or a growth mindset. People that have a fixed mindset tend to manifest certain behaviors. Now, let me give you an example. If you ask me, Ahmed, can you sing? And my answer is, yes, I have a beautiful voice. Now, that is a fixed mindset. I have a fixed mindset towards my ability to sing because I believe that my ability to sing is inherent and static, right? God gave me a beautiful voice. It's locked down or fixed. My potential was determined at birth, and it cannot change. Now, that can go both ways. If I answer, I have a horrible voice, it's also a fixed mindset. Do you see it? Now, if I say, I believe that my ability to sing can be continuously developed, my true potential is unknown and unknowable. Meaning, the more I put effort into something, the better it will get. So people can have fixed mindset or growth mindset about different things. So you can have a fixed mindset, for example, about your personality and a growth mindset about your character. But here's the important part. If you have a fixed mindset, you tend to do these things. Remember, if you have a fixed mindset about your ability to sing, you believe that it can't change. I can't develop it. I can't make it better or worse. It is what it is. Therefore, you have this very deep desire to always show it in the best possible way. So you want to look good, always, right? And by the way, that will lead you to avoid any type of failures or challenges. Why? Because failures and challenges will make you look bad or good? Bad, right? You stick to what you know. You don't want to try new things. Feedback. Do you think they like feedback? Why? Because you're giving me feedback about something I can't change. So why will I accept it? Actually, you're criticizing me. So I will reject it. And they don't change or improve. If you believe that you can't change, you stick to what you know, you don't try anything new, guess what? You won't change. Right? Make sense? Growth mindset is very different. They have this desire to learn. Because remember, they believe that their ability is unlimited. So they have this desire to learn new things. They're not afraid of putting effort into learning. They're not afraid to fail. And they actually seek feedback. Now, does this make sense? Yes? Do you know people that have a fixed mindset? Are they sitting beside you? Now, I'm telling you this not so that you can become the fixed mindset police. It's like, oh, you have a fixed mindset, take care. No, that's not the purpose. But the purpose is really to see the magnitude of the change that we're talking about here. Because when you look at work, not all work is the same. And Neil was just talking about this earlier. Nick, right? Nick was just talking about this earlier. Remember VUCA? Right? We're in a different world today. Not all work is the same. On one side, we have what we call task work. It's an assembly line. The key thing here is workers here, we don't want them to think. We just want them to do. Please don't think. Imagine if every one of these workers had an idea on the assembly line suddenly. No work will get done. There's a time to think and a time not to think. Okay? On the other side, we have knowledge work, which is creative work. And all the work here is thinking. There's not a point in time where it's like, please stop thinking. Right? Now, people in this room, what type of workers are you? Task workers or knowledge workers? Mostly. Knowledge workers. So, if you're knowledge workers, then these things are familiar to you. In the task work world, or the assembly line or industrial age mentality, the deliverables are defined before production, right? We don't start building a car and discover on the assembly line what the car is going to look like. We know exactly what it's going to look like before. But in knowledge work, deliverables evolve during production. Right? You guys mostly in software? Yes? Right? So you build, even though you may have a screen mock-up, but once you build it, it evolves. Why? Because it can. And people give feedback, and we get new ideas, and you're driving in the morning, it's like, what if we move this here? Let's move it. Which leads us to the second interesting point. Things in the task work world tend to have a high cost of change. So after I build a building, if I'm driving to work and I get an idea about moving the building, it's like, no. You don't even get those kind of ideas. Why? Because it's ridiculous. The cost of change is massively high. But in knowledge work, you actually can change. Now, which means you're going to get more changes when you lower the cost of change. You guys remember when we used to write on paper and pencil? Yes? All of you wrote on paper and pencil at some point. If you write and you find a better way to express what you're writing, you still have to think about what? The cost of change. You have to rewrite the whole paper. And sometimes you say, no, not worth it. But on Word, we've lowered the cost of change. The cost of change is close to 0. So guess what? You change more. The last thing to keep in mind is you actually can coordinate and control the execution. So again, this is what Nick was talking about, the simple and sometimes the complicated part, right? But not the complex. Here, execution is only possible through inspection and adaptation, right? Can you control the brain of all your developers? Right? No. You can't control the tester and tell them, by the way, you found the bug last time in 1 minute, you get 1 minute to find a new bug, go. You don't do that. Why? Because, again, your own brain, sometimes you have good days, sometimes you have bad days, right? So it's unpredictable. Now, here's the challenge. When your life looks like this, the things that you're building continuously evolve. You get tons of changes every day, and you can't control the execution of it. Welcome to your life, right? That's a lot of uncertainty and ambiguity, yes? So looking at the mindset comes into the picture here. What becomes your mindset around work? Do you have a fixed mindset? Meaning, in order to succeed, you have to fix things up front and say, don't change them so I can succeed? Or do you want to learn quickly? Do you see where the mindset comes? I don't care about your ability to sing, but I do care about how you manage uncertainty. Because we see a lot of people with this fear of failure. And so what that leads them to is when there is ambiguity, I will not proceed. I will keep asking my boss, tell me what to do, tell me what to do, tell me what to do, until he gives me a task list. Once you give me a task list, I know how to execute it. Thank you very much. Fixed mindset. The growth mindset or the agile mindset says, no. All right, we have an overall idea of where we need to go. Let me learn very quickly with you. Let me show you how this looks like. Can you guys see the bottom here? I don't know. Is it easy to put the lights off for a minute? Can we put the lights off? So I want to show you very practically what this mindset looks like in your day-to-day life. How many of you do iterative development? Okay, observe. The top row is a fixed mindset towards iterations. So when we look at this, what do you see here? We're going to discover, and then we're going to come to a point where we say, stop discovering. No more. And then we're going to build it in iterations. So here's the mindset. The mindset says, I need to know exactly what I'm going to build first, and the iteration is a mechanism to validate that I'm building what you told me to build. Do you see that? The bottom row says, we really don't know exactly what we want to build. It's a picture of a woman in a pastoral setting. So let's do the first iteration and together discover. Let's discover together here. So we create the first iteration, and guess what? I don't know if you can see this. The Mona Lisa's hand is on her face, and there's mountains in the background, and we don't know. So we say, no, we don't like this one. Let's build another one. Here's the main question. Did you consider this first iteration a failure or not? Did your boss consider it a failure or not? Right? Do you hear things like, okay, team, we accept failure, but next time, let's get it right? So where's the failure here? Right? It's then just talk. Because the moment you consider this a failure, guess what's going to happen next time? Top row. Now, remember, the mindset is about learning. Which of these two ways of work allow learning? Top or bottom? Bottom. So if you take a simple practice, a very simple fundamental practice like iterations, this is how a fixed mindset team would apply iterations. And this is how 90% of Agile teams are applying Agile. Still a fixed mindset. Nothing has changed. But we talk about Agile as a mindset, right? But the whole mindset is to truly enable learning. This is a way of enabling learning. But it takes a total cultural shift. This cultural shift I like to talk about in terms of strawberry jam. You guys know what strawberry jam is? If you don't, I have no idea how to pronounce this, but this is it. How do you pronounce it? That. Whatever he said. If you're trying to create an Agile organization, you are trying to create that. Okay? But here's the thing. You try Agile on one team, and you have a strawberry. Very nice strawberry. You taste it, it tastes good, right? Agile results are good. Team is happier, right? Overall happiness, yay. You say, okay, we want more of this. So give me more Agile teams, right? So now, okay, we have multiple Agile teams. But here's the problem. We think that more Agile teams will give us an Agile organization. Mm-mm. You don't get, say it? Yeah, I'm not going to try. You don't get strawberry jam by adding more strawberries in a bowl, right? What do you get? Strawberries, which is very different. You can have Agile teams inside of a non-Agile organization. Which is going to win? The organization. At some point, you're going to get smushed strawberries, right? Strawberries that died. Now, does anyone know how to create chili? Okay, I tried. Does anyone know how to create strawberry jam? Add sugar, water, what else? And heat. Now, can you accelerate it? Takes time, right? Takes a lot of time. A lot of sugar and a lot of heat. But once you create it, can you go back? If you, and I used to get people that came up to me and said, we did an Agile transformation 2 years ago and we went back to non-Agile. I was like, you didn't create a transformation. Because if you transform, there's no undo, there's no control Z. You cannot undo a transformation. You've transformed the culture. Now, I can return strawberries to the supermarket anytime, right? But once I create strawberry jam, there's no going back. And there's a jump here. And this jump is what we talk about as the cultural transformation. So you can have as many Agile teams as you want inside of your organization. But if you want a cultural transformation, that's very different. Now, I'm a little upset. Does this sort of look like me? Took me a lot of time to find this picture on the internet. I was looking at, you guys have this in your books? Open it up. Open it up, come on. Let's actually make use of it. And go to page 18 with me. So by the way, this was my first time seeing it 2 hours ago, right? Are you on page 18? And if you don't have it, look at the person beside you or take it from them. It's okay. So the number one barrier to Agile adoption over the past 7 years in the version 1 survey and here in the Turkish survey is hard to change company culture. Yes? So, the ability to change organizational culture and general resistance to change. I just saw this 2 hours ago. I promise you. I had this slide before. Are the biggest barriers to Agile adoption, and now we can say safely, on a global scale. Why? Why has it been the #1 barrier for the past 7 years? Because a lot of us don't understand what organizational culture is. That's one aspect of it. But the second aspect is, it's very hard. I want to show you a model that describes culture. And I've struggled with this a lot personally. How do we describe organizational culture? Organizational culture is a rubber band. Does anyone have a rubber band? I didn't expect it, but imagine a rubber band. These elements, leadership, the style of leadership, the habits, the values, the strategy the company sets, the way they put goals and the way they set rewards, the structure of the organization, the processes inside the organization, and people's beliefs and habits and values and all that. All of these things together form organizational culture. So I want you to think of all of these, and you have this rubber band around them that is formed by the shape of the things inside. Make sense? Here's how many people approach Agile transformation. If you think of Agile as a process, what are you changing? Process, right? And so you push on process as much as you can, and you're hoping to change the culture. What are you actually doing? You're straining the culture. You're misaligning the culture. You have a collaborative process, but people don't believe in collaboration. People still believe in competition, right? You have a collaborative cultures, but executives don't give time for collaboration to happen, right? You have a culture you have a process that says fail and learn, but you have strategies that don't reward for failure. True? So what happens when the change goes away? What's the rubber band going to do? Zoop. It's going to push the process right back in place. And this is the tension. And this is why it's been one of the main barriers to adoption for the past 7 years. Why? Because people are changing one aspect of an organization in hope to change culture. And it doesn't work. There's two aspects of this triangle: human elements and non-human elements, right? Leadership, and I single out leadership because it is a whole different ballgame, right? Changing leaders is hard. Very, very, very hard, right? And changing a lot of people is also very, very, very hard. And then you have the non-human elements: strategy, structure, and process. I have a question for you. Where are you focused? Where is your organization focused? Where is the industry focused when it comes to talking about Agile transformations? Human elements or non-human elements? Well, sadly, that's true, right? We talk about scaling processes, enterprise tools, right? Everything we're talking about is down here. And the first line of the Agile Manifesto says what? People over. So why are we doing this? Because it's okay. That's why I'm angry, right? Because we know the problem. We all know it, but it's quite hard. And I want you to do this exercise. I'll give you a minute or two to think about this within your groups. If you were to honestly draw your own triangle, how would it look like? From less agile to more agile, what would your triangle look like? Are you sitting with the people from your same company? Yeah? More or less? Turn around to the people beside you, and just for a minute or so, talk about how your triangle looks like. And why are you focused on the elements that you're focused on? Go ahead. Take a minute or two. So when you go back to your organizations, keep talking about this. Actually talk about, is this the shape that you want or not? All right, let's pause, guys. We're going to move forward. So again, use this just as a tool to talk about where we are. And keep in mind, if your organization looks something like this, then your culture is suffering. The rubber band is in so much tension. It's very, very, very painful. So organizational agility is a culture. Just like agile is a mindset, not a process, organizational agility is not a process at scale. It's a culture. It's a culture that's in line with the values and principles of agile, supported by the organizational ecosystem, and then manifested through personal and organizational habits. It's the way work gets done. Okay? What I want to show you is common transformation approaches that we've seen in the industry, right? And why sort of they fail, from my point of view. So remember, you're moving an organization from an industrial age mindset and culture to a knowledge age mindset and culture. So the first is process-led. And I've seen this in many, many, many places which look like this. We move the process first, right? And the hope, and remember, as soon as this becomes red, then you have a misalignment. Misalignment means there's a lot of resistance in the company, and you can go back very, very quickly. The hope is that things will move forward like this, that the process will start to pull other things like structure and strategy. Leadership's, still asleep, but, hopefully they'll come along the journey and move towards the new. By the way, I've never seen this work. Ever. They stop somewhere in the middle. I was like, okay, it's agile. Okay? Then I've seen this, which is called the team-based approach, which is, okay, we're going to go agile. Woohoo! One team, one agile. Now, that team is the lone strawberry. Right? They're just the one strawberry right there. And remember, this team is in misalignment with the culture of the rest of the company. Right? They get the team room. Right? They get the sticky notes and the Post-its, and everyone's like, why them? Okay? And the hope, I mean, again, these are good intentions. The hope is, me too. Right? And more agile teams will start to come. And at some point, everyone's calling themselves agile. No one understands anything, but everything is agile. Right? Why? Because that's the cool thing to do. And your organization looks like this. And the hope, again, is that everyone will come along the journey. Right? Now, I've seen this not succeed, especially, by the way, I've seen this with IT. Right? So let's take the entire organization. We're going to move IT to agile. Right? And unless your IT department looks like this. I'm serious. If the company is a technology company and management understands this, then yes, IT is a massive influential aspect of the organization. It can actually have the gravity to pull the rest of the organizations. But if IT looks like this, yeah, go do your Agile thing. We want business stakeholders. Sure. Good luck. Right? Great book, Scaling Up Excellence. There's a quote in the book that says, when big organizations scale well, they focus on moving 1,000 people forward 1 foot at a time rather than moving one person 1,000 feet forward. So instead of taking one part of your organization and make them agile, no, you take the entire organization on a journey. So here's what this would look like. Again, this is my best illustration. You want to move the entire triangle together. You want little changes, but everyone on the journey. Leadership, strategy, structure, process, and people. We're going to move everyone small bit. You see, the culture will remain aligned because everything is changing, one step at a time. Now, here's the lesson I learned by failing, which is this takes a long time. It's like making strawberry jam. Right? If you can't see the progress, if you can't see where the goal is, you can actually stop in the middle too. So you create quick wins. Right? This is the lumps of strawberry in your strawberry jam, and it looks like this. You're moving the entire organization forward, and there's some, I call them lighthouse teams. They show the rest of the organization what the end result will look like. Right? And so these are your strawberries along the journey, but everyone is moving at the same time. That's the difference between this and the team approach. The team approach, remember, one team is doing it and everyone else is doing nothing. Here, everyone's on a journey and some people are ahead. Big difference. Now, big question here. You're showing me triangles on a screen move. What is this? What are we actually changing? Good question. You're changing habits and behaviors. Let me show you what this looks like. We're going to take an example of one habit or behavior, collaborating. Okay? So what you want to do is you want to change the entire organization to collaborate more. That's it. That's the habit or behavior. So the way to do this is you look at all the different aspects of your culture. Leadership, strategy, structure, process, and people. And you ask yourself the question, what needs to change from a leadership perspective to enable more collaboration? Now that answer is different from everyone's organization. That's why it's your roadmap. What needs to change from our strategy to enable collaboration? What needs to change structurally to enable collaboration? What needs to change from a process perspective to enable collaboration? And what needs to change from a people perspective to enable collaboration? Once you do that, and this is an example, right, and I'll give you these slides, you create a roadmap. What are all the different behaviors that you want to change, right? And you start laying them out. But in this approach, you're moving the entire culture one behavior at a time. Does that make sense? Again, the focus of many organizations are on the middle, strategy, structure, and process. What I want to invite you to think about is this. You will get much more sustainable agility. I mean, think about it. What is more sustainable in your company? If people change the way they think all across the company, leaders and people and developers and testers, or if you change processes, strategies, and structures. Think about it. Which will give you more lasting change, right? So you want this transformational learning and education. And I want to show you just a visual to help you comprehend this. This is a typical 2-week iteration, okay? And I put all the usual suspects, stand-ups, demos, retrospective, everything. This is the difference between doing Agile and being Agile. What the team does, what changes in the way people think after the stand-up day to day, that's what we're talking about here. It's a different way of thinking. It's a different set of skills. It's different competencies. Now, have you heard of Riot Games? Anyone in the room heard of Riot Games? Excellent. So Riot Games were around 2,200 people, 15 locations worldwide. We were rated number 13 of best companies to work for. And this is our mission. So I'm going to give you an example of what we're doing at Riot Games here. We aspire to be the most player-focused game company in the world. We have a very, very clear strategy. We focus on our players, which are our audience, right? It's not about profit, it's not about bottom line. This is our aspiration. Now, what do we do if you don't know? We have a game, a really big game right now. It's called League of Legends. If you don't know what League of Legends is, the best way to describe it is think of this battlefield, and you have a blue team and a red team. I don't know why it's purple here. And each team wants to basically take over the other person's base. You know basketball, right? You have 5-on-5, yes? Add 5 balls in the mix, and that's sort of the feeling you'll get, okay? Now, our audience are core gamers. What you're seeing here is called eSports, where people actually come to a stadium. And this was, by the way, the Turkish finals. When was this? July, yeah, a couple of months back. 10,000 people watching, right, teams battle for the final of League of Legends. Now, the reason I'm bringing all this to the pictures, I want to show you the environment that we live in here. We have 67 million monthly active players. It's the largest played online game in the world, right? 27 million daily active players, 7.5 million concurrent players, and this was January of 2014. This is the largest thing you can imagine. Now, what we do a lot of different things, from game development to organizing eSports events, to organizing community events, to creating music videos, to actually creating merchandise. By the way, this is all done in-house, right? To creating music albums, to documentaries, to data servers and our own network. We have our own network to reduce latency for players. Now, here's the question I have for you. How do you get organizational agility across all these different dimensions? Right? You've heard of SAFe, Scaled Agile Framework? I can't have a release train. I can't. Why? Because I'm building so many different things. Right? The way we're going to organize eSports event for 60,000 viewers is very different than the way we're going to release a music video or do game development. So how do you scale agility across that? Well, here's what typical organizations do. Typical organizations have a hierarchy that looks like this. You have senior leadership, you have middle management, and you have the workforce. True? Teams generally look something like this. And by the way, I've opened this up. I wrote manager, project manager, program manager, functional manager, whatever manager you want to imagine, right? But you have a manager and you have people, right? That's the basic structure here. And here's how companies introduce Agile. They get an Agile coach, right? Whether internal, external, whatever it is, they get an Agile coach. And then the conflict starts. Why? What's the role of the manager? Well, become the Scrum Master. I don't want to become the Scrum Master. Become the product owner. I'm not a product owner. Well, there's no room for project managers in Agile, but I have a team. And then the question is, who's accountable for the results of this team? Still the manager. Right or wrong? So we took a different approach. We said, what competencies need to exist? What disciplines do we need to develop to move people from thinking about the old way of working to thinking about the new way of working? What needs to change? Not just training, but concepts, knowledge, what we call transformational education. And we take people on a journey. So we use the International Consortium for Agile's learning roadmap. It's a learning roadmap. And here's what we do. I want you to imagine here. We take everyone in the company on first what we call Agile fundamentals. They learn the basics of agility, which is focused on not Scrum or XP, but focused on the mindset, values, and principles. This is everyone, from executives to new people in finance, in talent, in development. Everyone learns this. And then here's the thing. We take people on a journey to change the way they think. Remember, we are focused on the human aspect of change. And how do you change? You change by learning, mentoring, and practice. That's how you build new competencies. And so we take people on a journey to learn facilitation. Because this new way of working is not about someone telling someone, it's about facilitating discussions between team members. We take them on a journey to learn about coaching, right? You saw from the keynote before, it's a different way of managing people. I can put it on a whiteboard, but until you know the craft of coaching, you won't be able to coach, right? And then we tell them, you have to go develop this competency, right? And be assessed in that competency, because giving you training does nothing. It just gives you new ideas, new aha moments, but then you actually have to go and practice this. We don't stop there. Well, you need to learn Agile project management because you're still managing projects. You're not only managing teams. You need to learn business value analysis. What is of value? What is not of value? And how do you slice things in value? And then some people will continue on a journey to learn about adaptive management and portfolio management. My point is, this is not easy. Transforming people is a journey. It's a long journey. And remember, you said it. The easy way is to focus on the strategy, structures, and practices. The hard way is to focus on people. And this is what we've developed. We've developed competency matrix that show what beginners, developer, and competent aspects of these different competencies that we need to build even look like. And this becomes people's self-guiding aspect of how to build themselves, right? So you define what good looks like, and you have people go on that journey towards it. So we want to experience the power of agility not through process, but through people. We want you to go above the practices, above the methodologies. And to wrap up, this is the team we have. We have development management, who basically are responsible for delivery and how Riot works across the board. Today we have 70+ Agile delivery leaders, right? These are people that are going through that journey, moving the organization from the middle, top down, bottom up, and it's changed through the transformation of people. And here's my call to you. First of all, try it out in your organization. Focus more on the people. And then my shameless plug, if you love Agile, if you're a gamer, talk to us. We're looking always at adding more Agile delivery leaders. Thank you very much.